DJWoodBeats.com.
I can do anything. Fuck your opinions and energy. I finally got the epitome. My biggest hindrance was God can't do nothing but fail. Greater is me. I never needed your deity. All of this human capacity. When it gets rough, I can pick myself up and prevail. I can do anything. Fuck your opinions and energy. I finally got the epitome. My biggest hindrance was God can't do nothing but fail. Greater is me. I never needed your deity. All of this human capacity. When it gets rough, I can pick myself up and prevail.
No. You got it covered. Cover photo. What's up, everybody? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. How you doing out there?
So glad to see you here.
Yes,
Ooh.
yes.
I see Alyssa has her caffeine and snacks ready.
Hey,
I am here
Alyssa.
for it. Good day advocating for humanity. Dale, glad to see you here. Yes. Man, I'm super excited about this conversation that we're going to be having today, and I hope you all are too.
Yes.
Oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. We're starting mind change today, or change my mind. The first video I did on it, which I should have shared this in the description. But the first video I did on it was called Mind Change. What's up? Paying homage. Glad to have you in the building as always. Yeah. All right. So, well, thank you for joining us for our Sunday sessions. And if you haven't already, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that alert notification bell. Find a way to get connected to this community that makes sense to you, whether it's volunteering, whether it's just subscribing and supporting these videos, or whether it's finding a way to be financially supportive. Whatever it is, find a way, get involved. And then, of course, we have some of the dopest merch in the game. So, hey, check it out. You know what I'm saying?
More coming. Right?
And more coming. More coming. For damn show, right? Awesome. Awesome. All right. All right. We do have a few acknowledgments. The first one is, hey, we didn't get to talk about it last Sunday because we weren't here. You know, it was hot. It's still hot. Our AC is still out. That's why we're not in the garage, which is where we were working on switching over to. But it should be fixed by Tuesday, and we really didn't want to go another weekend. Derek, what's going on? We didn't want to go another weekend without being able to come live and have this conversation. And honestly, I don't want to push this conversation back anymore. But to say that, we didn't get to talk about the Ex-Pastor call-in show last week, and so, which was the week before last. If you have not checked that out, please. We had an amazing time. This is the Ex-Pastor call-in show is hands down becoming one of my favorite shows that we do on this channel, because we're actually able to help people without having to appeal to superstition. And that just, for me, that feels incredible, especially as a former pastor, as I'm sure you can all imagine, right?
Right. You've been getting some great feedback in the comments as well. So
yes.
Definitely appreciate that.
For sure. And then also, for those of you who missed the video, I did make a decision to no longer, to not continue moving forward with Talk Heathen. It was nothing major, just a logistical issue, primarily scheduling. Sundays are a big day for us, and Sundays are a big day for them as well. And so apparently there was just too much overlap. But if you'd like to hear about that in detail, go check out the video.
Check out the video.
And here's another one that I'm really excited about. This week's Bible study. If you notice, we didn't have one this past week, primarily because it was hot. It was hot. So, but this week's Bible study with an ex-pastor starting this week will be live for the entire book of Exodus. We're going to be going at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time every Wednesday. I almost said every day. Every Wednesday. Do you see how I finagled myself back into a church schedule?
Yes.
Where like every Sunday and every Wednesdays. But for the Bible study with the week, Bible study with an ex-pastor, it is a day that worked best for me and my new co-host. I'm going to have a special guest co-host for the entire book of Exodus, and that is going to be Jason Foe from Dragons in Genesis. And so I hope y'all are as amped about this as I am, because like to me, this is absolutely, I think we're going to have great conversation. Jason has a Catholic background. I have a charismatic background. So this is going to be definitely a meeting of two minds. And I also love it because of the ebony and ivory aspect, which you don't see a lot in the secular community as of now, which I'm not blaming the secular community for that. There really hasn't been enough of us out here. Mandisa has definitely been holding the torch with Black non-believers, and we're greatly appreciative of that. But it is nice to see some more stuff that's taking place in the community that's integrated. So again, I hope that's something y'all are as excited about as I am. And then the last part for me, and then baby, I'm gonna hand it over to you for some announcements. The last part for me is the growth of our community. Have y'all been tracking this? You know, as a person who, I guess it's the project manager side of me, data is very important, and I guess the computer science side too. But data is very important, and so I'm always just kind of tracking things, seeing how we're trending, seeing how we're growing. And I wanted to share some of this with you, which I do try to come in and do every now and then. I should have had my map ready to share today. But I do keep a map of everywhere that we're making impact, everywhere that we have people that are connecting with us. And so right now, of course, the easy one is we have over 3,100 subscribers, which means that more than 3,000 of those subscribers, literally more than 3,050 of those subscribers we got this year. That's because of your support. That's because of you all tuning into the channel and really vibing with us. As far as the United States, we have people who are connected with Bridge City, Sunday Sessions, DLDD World Group, otherwise this channel, in more than 15 states. Like that's insane. That's beautiful to me. Like I'm Florida, Texas, New Jersey, North Carolina, South Carolina, Southern California. You know what I'm saying? I know it's not a separate state, but it is different. It's different, you know. Oregon, Washington, literally DC. So it's amazing. But not only are we in 15 states in the United States, and not only do we have Easier Said with Meg, what's up? Wasn't that an episode of Family Guy? Okay, that's a rabbit trail for me. Yes. Not only are we growing in 15 states in the US, but we are also represented in 15 countries across the globe. Right. 15 countries. That's amazing. In a year, like that's how, or in less than a year. Yeah, it's not even a year yet. It's not even a year yet. Like in less than a year, that's how much we've been able to expand. And that is across 5 continents. So that's absolutely just phenomenal. That's North and Central America, Africa, Europe, Asia, and Australia. We've got to get some people in South America. Where are our South America folk at? And maybe we'll get some scientists and some researchers from Antarctica. That's that's about all that's there. The diversity, right? You know, inclusion. You know, we don't discriminate. Okay, we don't. All right, babe. Well, I'm gonna hand it over to you so you can hit these announcements because I know they are tired of hearing my voice.
Yes, and with that being said, if you haven't already, come on, went to Amazon and ordered Christ Held Up, which is the new book that has came out. Go ahead and order it. We already been getting some great feedback on the book, so we appreciate you for those who have already ordered it and read it. Also, if you do already have it, go back to Amazon, leave a review. We would love to see your thoughts that way as well, and it also helps it to get more visibility that way as well.
Yes.
And Darante is also planning to have another book out.
Yes.
Before the end of the year. Okay, so we're pushing for that.
So many books.
He's always writing something. New ideas, they keep coming, right? So keep a lookout for it.
I'm gonna pull it up.
Oh, thank you, Tess. Okay, you got it.
Yep. How can we get it autographed? I have to think about that. You know what? I may just since you do me this favor, if you put a review online, I will just send you an autograph copy. You put a review on Amazon, I'll pay for that second copy because you've already paid for a book. And I'll send you an autograph copy. Thank you. That just
and then you could give somebody.
Yeah, and then you have a book to give somebody. Look at that.
Look how that works.
We're saying, look at God.
Yes.
Oh man.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Tess. We definitely appreciate that.
Thank you, Sharon. Yes.
Yes,
Woo-hoo!
thank you, Sharon.
I love it. I love it. And so look, that deal runs for you too. That deal's run for you too. Send me the link to that review, and I will send you out an autograph copy. And so that way, if you have your other copy, you can give it away.
Look,
I love it.
More hands touching.
More hands touching. Yes.
Yes. Well, we thank you for that. And as Darante mentioned earlier, as we continue to grow, we want avenues and ways where we can congregate, if you will, come together outside of the platform as well. So if you haven't already, joined us on Discord. We have hangout sessions. You'll see post hangout sessions there, jumping in right after we get off. You'll also see other little ways you can participate in the general chats, feedback, suggestions. And it's just a bunch of fun. I'm gonna put that link in the chat.
Oh, awesome. And just to kind of add in there, Advocating for Humanity, who you see on the screen, he's one of our moderators, one of our volunteers. He's our community engagement leader. He is typically jumping in Discord every Sunday before and after these sessions, really helping us out, primarily because he knows it takes a lot for us to even set all of this up. But he's jumping in there, and we love it. And so please make sure, if you can, jump in there and let's start sparking some conversations for this community, right?
Absolutely. And last but not least, I know my husband mentioned merch. We are looking to make a design of Poor Fella and Keep Your Delusions to Yourself.
Yeah,
that's just too funny. It seems a little petty, but
I almost want to do that design with like a teacher doing like the finger thing, and maybe have it on chalkboard, like keep your designs to yourself. Like I'll keep your delusions to yourself.
Yes, I think that would be hilarious,
man.
But are you gonna segue us into the conversation, and I'll jump in on the tip?
That sounds good. So about a week ago, I dropped a new video that is still gaining attention about the statistics that were demonstrating how Americans' minds were changing. And in that video, I highlighted 4 key areas about concerning the rise in secularism, changes in theism, which is also good, spirituality versus organized religion, which I have lots of thoughts about. And beliefs in the afterlife, which there are. And yes, Eeyore, I did see those links. I meant to respond. I have not had time yet. I thought they were really neat. And yeah, I will jump into that. But the big point was to explore this idea of mind change. Like, how does it happen? Why does it happen? When does it happen? And so to kind of open up this conversation, I do want to kind of give some definition of relevant terms, because we're going to be in this series of conversations for 3 weeks. We're going to be in this for 3 weeks. Short and sweet. Yeah. 3 weeks. And there are some terms that are interchangeable that we'll be using throughout all 3 sessions. And I want to kind of get us grounded on. I really wish I would have put these in the thing. And you know what I think I made? Or can you
throw it in chat or?
Yeah, let's put them up as banners.
All right.
Put them up as banners. And so so we're going to talk about these relevant terms, and we're going to put these up on the screen so you can all see them. And the first one is sentience. So sentience, and it's going to pop up. There it is the capacity to feel and perceive sensations. It is the most basic form of awareness and is often linked to the ability to experience pleasure and pain. And I just found it very, very important to talk about these type of words when you're talking about the mind. When you talk about the mind, we need to be able to talk about the difference between sentience and then also consciousness. Because when we're talking about consciousness, we're talking about something that builds on sentience by adding self-awareness and the ability to reflect on one's existence and thoughts. And so consciousness typically involves a higher level of mental processing and awareness. And I hate if this feels like class, but I just want to get the preliminary stuff out the way. Because these are not designed to be lectures. These are not designed to be sermons. These are designed to be conversations. You can put intelligence back up. And that last one is intelligence, which refers to cognitive abilities like reasoning, learning, and problem solving. It can exist without sentience or consciousness, which I think is absolutely amazing, and it's probably something that we didn't really wrestle with into the past few decades. And of course, artificial intelligence is a great example of something having intelligence without sentience or consciousness. And so once you kind of realize that, you now realize that intelligence is something beyond the zeitgeist of conversation that we've typically had around that. All right, so those are just some preliminary definitions so that we can, oh, yep, that was the other part of that. Perform intelligent tasks without any awareness or feeling. So let's talk about the neuroscience of changing minds. And this is where we're picking up pretty much where I left off on that last video. And so it's just understanding how we change our minds requires a dive into the human brain, which is a complex organism always in flux. Neuroscience has revealed that several factors are key in the process of changing one's belief. And so I want to start with the first one, which has become like almost a fascination of mine over the past few years, and that is neuroplasticity. I'd be interested to know how many of you are already familiar with neuroplasticity and its its ramifications, if you will. Oh man, yeah, that is an interest in New York because I wrestle with it because it is so beautiful. Some animals do come pretty close to being conscious as well as sentient, and actually I do think that quite a few that quite a few people are leaning towards the idea that animals are conscious. You know, there's so many layers to it, which I absolutely love. That's one of the reasons why I am not a big fan of superstition, because it does rob us of the beauty of our own development, of our own processes, and how we process things.
And seeing the complexity of things.
Absolutely.
Things aren't just that simple. Like God did it, or we have it because of A, B, and C, right? It's complex.
Like I remember in the early 90s and late 90s, there was a lot of conversation around brain damage. There was a lot of conversation about damaging your brain cells and damaging your neurons and things of that nature. And a lot of that talk, not all of it for sure, because brain damage is a real thing, but a lot of that talk has been subjugated by this idea of neuroplasticity, where we formerly thought that certain behaviors, yes, it is fascinating, isn't it, Tess? Where we're finding that things that we once assumed were damaging the brain, because I just slipped up on something good. Because we associated change with damage.
Wow.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, that is good. And there's a few places.
We associated change with deviation. We associated change with non-compliant. And so it's almost like the same way we built our schools, which became, in a lot of ways, the public education system became damaging to children who were non-compliant, children who were non-conformative, children who didn't fit into a certain mold. And it's because we as a society had come to this place that for anything to work, it has to look like something else. It has to behave like something else. It has to operate like something else. And so we had that same type of mentality even when it came to our own brain and to our own thinking, and that, if the brain is changing, you must be damaging it. And so for about a good, or at least a good decade, that was the norm of communication, that anything that changes the way your brain works is damaging your brain or malfunctioning, or somehow your brain is malfunctioning. And now the conversation has moved to, wait a minute, it's not actually changing, or it's not actually being damaged, it's just changing. We don't know the damage until we've seen damage. And so now we're learning, and I think this is a healthy lesson to learn. Now we're learning that change doesn't equal damage, which for many of you who have deconstructed and deconverted, that's something you're dealing with now, likely with family members and friends who think because that you have changed, that somehow means you've lost something.
That's good that you said that, because I mean, you can equate that on the conversations we're having with how people choose to live their lives.
Yes.
And when you're talking to family members or parents, the change is almost always equated to, oh, I damaged you, or you've been damaged and I messed up somewhere.
Yep.
And not really, it's kind of take away your agency and your own thought process that way as well.
That's good. Which, and it's, Here's a guilty pleasure. I don't like to watch it, but I watch it, and that's was Love and Hip Hop Atlanta.
Yeah.
Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. We were watching it last night, and one of the characters is a homosexual man. His name is Saucy Santana. I believe he's also a rapper or a singer or something along those lines. He's an artist, and his mother is a preacher, and him and his mother seem to have a good relationship. But what I did notice about that relationship is that it's only good because it's dishonest. You know what I'm saying? He has to be very dishonest about the way that she sees him. And so even when she says things that are belittling and criticizing, you know, but just kind of piggybacking off of what you said, they had this conversation that we saw last night where she put in her book that she felt bad, that she failed him as a mother because he had sexual relations with an older cousin. And in her mind, and this ties in so perfectly, in her mind, this must have been what made you gay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That tends to be the conclusion.
It seems to be the conclusion. And even though he was saying that, no, I was interested in guys, you know, long before that, you know, this had nothing to do with that. He felt so bad that she felt bad for that he kind of suppressed his own humanity to give her grace. Yeah. But what that does highlight is we assume that we know how mind change works, because in her mind, this event changed my son's mind. Exactly. Now, right. she hasn't done the research on this, and she's not even allowing his own testimony to be valid in this experience. In her mind, something happened to you that changed your mind. And how often do we do that to people? How often do people do that to us? And whether it's something as serious as your beliefs, whether it's something as serious as a relationship you're in, maybe it's you choosing your political party. People have this ideology that if you changed, something must have happened.
Right.
That was bad.
It has to be something because it makes them feel better.
Yeah.
From what I noticed when we grow up in the Christian household on our end, it has to be something that calls you to, for instance, for young ladies, sometimes have a child early on, or something had to happen for A, B, and C versus, okay, the person being able to choose that in that moment or make a decision, you know, and be okay with it. So.
And that partly comes from, and that's why this is just beautiful segue. That partly comes from this idea that you're not normal because you're not compliant, you know. And when I say normal, I don't mean like, oh, you're weird, but people in society do tend to view things and judge things based off of norms. Yeah. And the moment you deviate from the norm, it's like something must have happened to you to make you no longer want this norm, because this norm is acceptable to everybody else. Why isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a really good segue into emotional influence taking a part in how we change or how we look at things, because emotion plays a significant role in shaping our beliefs.
Yes.
Neuroscientific studies suggest that emotional reactions to information can profoundly impact whether and how we change our minds. For example, if new information about a political issue is framed in a way that resonates emotionally, whether positively or negatively, it is more likely to alter our beliefs. And we're seeing that in the present election process, the journey. Sure. We're getting close there. And you see how even politicians appeal more so in the speech. You don't always hear about exact policies. What do you plan to do for the next 4 years? You may hear a little bit here and there that's more generalized, but it's more so set to appeal to you your emotional status versus really saying, this is what I plan to do, make a decision because I'm the best candidate.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely, it seems that people have found that emotional appeals are somewhat of a shortcut and have definitely used them. And in many ways they are, because again, kind of blend this back in with this idea of neuroplasticity. the way that this kind of works is the connections between neurons can become stronger or weaker based off of the information, not only that you're receiving, but the information that you have an affinity for or that you have an attraction to. And and when we're exposed to new information or experiences, our brain literally rewires itself to accommodate this new data and this new experience, which can lead to a change in beliefs. And so when these emotional appeals, oh my goodness, don't they just get us?
Yeah.
Like
you know that phrase that we hear a lot between us. Oh, I feel you in that.
I feel you.
That.
Yeah.
You could not.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. But even notice how, like, when someone says makes sense, that makes sense to me. In most cases, when and I don't want to say most cases, in many cases, when people say that makes sense, what they're saying is that feel like that could be true.
Right.
That feels like it could be
right.
Yes. Yeah. Which is one of the reasons, one of the things that we even share with our kids is that always remember, and this is a way to kind of safeguard you, always remember that emotions are for the experience, data is for the decisions. We often see people go too hard one way or the other way. So I think people think I'm cold, and I'm probably one of the warmest people you'll ever meet, but people think I'm cold because I don't make decisions based off of my emotions. And, and I lived a very long time doing that. It did not serve me well. And so people think because I'm not led by my emotions that I don't value my emotions. And I'm like, oh man, nothing could be further from the truth. I value my emotions because they inform me about how I feel about my experience. But my emotions have no capacity to inform me about other people. They have no capacity about informing me about decisions. And that I kind of used to use my emotions spiritually, that my emotions were a sign that something is off about this person, or a sign that something is off about this deal. I don't do that anymore. Or a sign that, or a sign that this deal is really going to work. I don't do any of that anymore.
And that's good, because emotions are kind of used as that's God talking.
Yeah. That's what we do. You end up taking your own inner dialogue and kind of assigning it to this deity, whether it's Jehovah, or Allah or whoever else, you want to call on. But that's exactly what it is. But I think it's worth mentioning that oftentimes something does happen that influences a change in mindset, but the change is ultimately solidified by a lot of other mundane passive factors. And that is absolutely true. They do get to you, but they also start wearing down on you, especially when they start relying on guilt trips and nothing else. Which has become the language of politics right now. Definitely the guilt trips. If you don't do what you say, paying homage, bruh, you speaking my language. It becomes, if you don't agree that my politician is the best, then you're a bad person. If you don't agree that my policies are the best, then you're a bad person. And to me, that's and I think y'all have noticed that's been my conversation since I first came out. It makes no sense to be able to call out the problems in religious superstitions if you cannot call out those same problems in political superstitions and academic superstitions and economic superstitions and life capacity superstitions. For me, it wasn't, for me, I didn't leave religion because religion was so bad. I left religion because approaching that way, a living life off of that way, is not a healthy way to engage life and get the best from it. But that's not just from religion. There are people who engage their politics the exact same way they engage their religion. Can you put Eeyore's first comment back up? Because there was something in that he said that triggered something that I definitely wanted to hit. I think it's worth mentioning that sometimes, yes, this is it. Because the series we just got out of, Please Don't Stop the Music. Go back to episode 1. I think it's episode 1 of that one, where we talk about the analogy of the dancer, and through that we talk about a few concepts. The concept of generation, obviously, which y'all have heard me mention plenty of time. But within this, we talk about how understanding under the concept of generation. I don't know if I went into it that deep in that. I should have, but pretty much, and I think some of us, we may have had this conversation before, is that the conscious mind is not in the driver's seat the way that we think it is. The conscious mind is validating the information and kind of allowing you to get a window in it. And it's so weird to talk about these things. So I'm probably going to get this a little, because it's weird. but it's actually the subconscious mind, which we don't even know what to call it because we don't know whether to call it subconscious, unconscious, non-conscious. But we can't necessarily call it non-conscious, I guess, because there is some processing going on there. But the subconscious mind is that thing that is taking in information that you're not even trying to take in. And I think those are things that we often don't realize. The things that influence your capacity to even make a decision about what you think is already kind of pre-processed in an area that you don't have access to. Right. The only thing you have is like the how you feel about the information. And that's the part you play into it, you know. But it is so funny because the things that contribute to changing our minds are very rarely the things that we think they are.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move to the next one, which is cognitive dissonance. And this is a psychological concept that refers to the mental discomfort experienced when holding two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas or values at the same time. Neuroscience shows that this discomfort is not just an abstract feeling, but a tangible process in the brain that can lead us to change our attitudes in order to reduce the dissonance. And so you definitely see this. This is cognitive dissonance is probably one of the biggest reasons why there are so many different varieties of progressive and liberal Christians, because there's this idea of, okay, I believe in God, but I may not believe in that version of the God. Right. And so it's the more information you're exposed to, which that's going to be the key word for this entire series, is the key word is information.
Yeah.
The more information you're exposed to, the more information you have to wrestle with,
or even what you believe the actions God is taking on your behalf.
Oh yeah,
even though you know you had to do.
Oh, that's a good one. All right, yeah.
You say God did that.
Because you know, and that's a part that I don't talk about with my own journey. Is that, but that was definitely my conversation in 2014. Is realizing like, oh, God didn't do anything. I did all of this.
You did all.
I did all of this. Which for me, I balanced that out, which also meant like, damn, the devil didn't do any of this. I did all of this.
Right.
So it's been me. The good, the bad, the ugly. It's came up. It's all me. You know.
That was the song.
It was Drake. It was one of my favorites for a minute. Drake and A$AP Rocky, I think. Oh man.
Hello, Native Atheists. Thank you for jumping in.
Native Atheists, welcome in. Welcome in. Wild Turkey 101. I love it. Yes. Yes. Some Tennessee whiskey in here. Let me stop. Oh man. Oh man.
Just checking through here.
I love it. All right, so we're gonna move this conversation a little bit. Dang it was something you said about it was a point you just made about cognitive dissonance. Oh, about us doing things and then having to give God the credit for it. Yeah. Like, so that was definitely a thing for me. It was easier in the beginning. The more I realized how much work I had to put in life and how intentional I had to be about that, it definitely created a dissonance that I could no longer ignore, because it became, wait a minute, like if I'm having to do all of this, then what exactly is God doing? Because and the way that I think, and again, my first degree is social science. The way that I think is, okay, if I were to run this same experiment without God, you know what I'm saying? What would have been the difference in the results? Yeah. And ultimately, that's the thing that I know, being in charismatic circles, really forced me to ignore for a long time. And that was that there were people, and it's not hard to see. There are people who are not Christians that have beautiful lives. You know what I'm saying? Like excellent lives. But I had to buy into this ideology, this dissonance that nope, the only way you can have a beautiful life is with God.
And for me, part of that was if you don't praise and worship, if you don't shout, like, so this is why your blessings and things.
Do y'all know what shouting is? I know the black folk might know, but my other folk, did y'all go to churches where people shout? Where people run around, where people do a huckabuck, where people cut a rug, you know, where old ladies run into pianos and then get back up by the power of God, telling mom the devil made me do it, still got your ass whooped. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. That's when you knew she didn't believe in the devil. Yay, pragmatic Crystal. Yeah, she's on our Discord. I know we got to talk about it more. We got to talk about it more. Oh man, but yeah, that's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. All right, so we're gonna move right along and talk about the role of the prefrontal cortex. And what I would absolutely love to do, like, because this is just the beginning, you know, we're just getting started. This is year one for this type of work. As we build these conversations, what I'd absolutely love to do is actually bring, and not just us, for those of you who are thinking about building community where you are, I hope this is giving you somewhat of a framework to consider. Of moving away from the idea of lectures and moving into this idea of conversations. And then, like, what I would have absolutely loved, but I couldn't find anybody last minute. What I would have loved for this conversation is to actually bring in a neuroscientist,
Yes,
a psychologist, and some sociologists to actually have these conversations with us. But today, you're just going to have to deal with the sociologists. So, but the prefrontal cortex is responsible for higher cognitive functionings, such as decision making. It plays a crucial role in belief change. So if we're going to be talking about changing my mind, we got to talk about the prefrontal cortex. It's involved in critically evaluating new information, overseeing emotional reactions, and making the ultimate decision to change a belief or stick to the old one. So there's so much going on in the prefrontal cortex, like literally, okay, evaluating new information, that's discernment in spiritual talk. Overseeing emotional reactions, that's the fruit of the spirit in spiritual talk.
Yeah.
Making the ultimate decision to change a belief or stick to the old one, that's the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Now you see, and I said it that way to show you that these are all things that oftentimes in our superstition that we accredited to something else just out of our own ignorance.
Yeah.
You know, so just not knowing any better, because someone told you you had this experience. This experience must be my imaginary friend.
Right.
My imaginary friend is giving you this experience instead of realizing that, holy snap, there's an entire mechanism at process. You know,
at work here,
and
right.
you know, and I'm not telling you have to stop believing in your imaginary friend. Maybe your imaginary friend is behind that mechanism process, but you would never realistically know that unless you got an understanding of that mechanism. Does that make sense? So like you wouldn't be able to genuinely say that I know that God is speaking to me because you haven't actually explored the mechanism. And so the reason I'm saying this again, though, yes, I am an atheist, and yes, I am anti-superstition. I'm not trying to take anybody's religious superstition away from them. I want them to give it up on their own. I don't want to take it from you. I want you to have a realization one day that, oh, this might be bullshit, and let me put people ahead of gods. All right, yeah, I kind of sidetracked myself a little bit there.
No, but I thought this was funny. Okay.
Are practically alien. Wow, yeah. That sounds about right. Our churches are highly animated.
Yes.
Highly animated.
You're gonna have a whole show by the end.
Yes. Going back, turning it up a notch. Let's show them how to cut a rug for real.
That's funny. So, I'm glad you brought up the prefrontal cortex because it gives some context.
Yes.
No.
Context.
It gives
context on the cortex. I love it.
Yeah, of sort of getting into the why, the how, and getting more deeper for us to understand how we think, why we think, and how that works. So jumping into how does it work, processing input for the prefrontal cortex. So it takes in information from the environment and compares it to past experiences. It also creates a mental sketch pad that allows it to maintain information even when there's no environmental stimulation. This process is known as working memory.
Yeah.
And so I think just taking information from experiences, and I think we tend to carry that on until we get to that next level.
Yes.
I know for me, it's like most of the information I had growing up, it was really hard to change my mind on certain things.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to do A, B, and C, period.
Yes.
Right? Because, I'm going off my past experiences or what I'm open to, right? Until new information comes in and it's being processed. And so that also leads to planning. It also plays a role in that. And The PLC helps to develop action plans that are based on both current goals and future plans. It also helps with goal-directed behaviors like orientation, attention, decision-making, and emotionality. And so this cortex is a heavy-duty.
It very much is.
Heavy-duty piece of work here. It's complex system, right?
Yeah, it has a lot going on with this. It also does. So that's the processing input, and that's like literally that's the whole human experience right there. It's like your entire lived experience, you know, for the most part, is just you processing input.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons why I'm really big, and we kind of talked about this in How to Human, of recognizing that there is no blueprint for humanity, that there is no mold for humanity. Nobody represents the archetype for humanity, that we really have to recognize that all of us are responses to the input that we've processed. Right. And we're all different type of processors.
You know, that made me think of, I don't know if you had the parents that said, oh, it went out, it came in one ear and went out the other ear. I don't know where they got that from.
Yeah, it just came, basically, you know, it just went in and didn't get processed. And you know, it's funny, that's probably one of the few sayings that parents had that was probably close to accurate with a lot of us, is that, you know, because life had become such knee-jerk reaction. And that's what compliance does. If you grow up in a compliance-centered culture, you actually separate yourself from why you're doing what you're doing. And a great example of that is walking down the street and you just see a stranger and you say, hey, how you doing? And what you do next demonstrates that you actually had no intentions about actually asking this person how they were doing. You're actually just doing this out of a compliance response. You have been like inculcated in this idea that this is polite and that to not do so is not polite. But the problem is, yes, it's going in one ear and not being processed, kind of going out of the other ear, because like, okay, cool. Hey, how you doing? And I'm gonna keep on going. Instead of realizing that the polite thing to do, and I'm not saying, you know, stop doing this, but instead of realizing that the actual polite thing to do would be to actually genuinely be curious of how that person's doing.
And then it also assumes, in general, you assume that the person knows, oh, I'm just saying hi and keep it going passing. But you do get some people, which I've had in stores, who will literally stop and have a whole conversation. What's going on?
Oh, yeah. When I was a pastor, I got that a lot, you know. Hey, how you doing? I'm so glad you asked. Tyrone he's up for parole, and I don't think they're going to get him out. Like, it was rough. Didn't even make it in to make it out. I love it.
Yeah. You kind of got to reel it in. Like, okay, I got to finish shopping. I got the kids.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I like for us all to be kind of mindful of those ways that we do those things quite a bit. You know, I know that's something I've become much more intentional about in my own life over the past few years. And so, like, even sometimes baby girl will come in and she'll be saying something to me, and I'll be like, and I'll, hey, babe, I didn't hear a word you just said. Can you say that again? And that's me being mindful now of, okay, I'm saying to be socially compliant, but I'm still not being engaged.
And then that's also on, hey, Bree, thank you for jumping.
Bree made it in.
Appreciate it. And that's also on the responsibility of the person coming to you, like me checking in. Do I have your attention?
Yeah.
Then, you know, and if you don't have it, I don't have the right, or everybody else doesn't have the right to just come demand it all the time when they want it. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you may have your kids do that. You working, you cleaning, or you doing whatever, and they just come, Mom, I want this, or did you do that? You know.
And you know, that's actually good, because that is something that we definitely try to be more intentional about in the family, in this house, when speaking to each other, and even when speaking to the kids. We're constantly remind each other, like, hey, don't yell, you know, and not yell as in yelling like, you mother, you know what I'm saying, but like just, hey, come get the groceries, you know, stuff like that. Hey, don't yell. Let's make communication paramount. So in a sense, and that's what you just highlighted there. Let me make sure I have your attention. If I'm having to yell, that means I didn't do what it took to get your attention in the first place. And even also, even when we do that, we'll just typically yell their names and say, "Come here," and then once they come here, communicate them face to face. But yeah, that was a really good thing to hit, because that's communication is something I'm passionate about, obviously, but it's something that I've also seen take a hit, partially due to religious superstition, and then partially due to romantic superstition. And so romantic superstition is you watch all these movies that say, well, if you really love me, you should know what I want. Okay. Nobody loved you enough to be a fucking psychic. So that's not how that shit works. Okay. Love doesn't turn people into psychics. But also, but you end up getting those things where they saw me in the room, or they saw me doing this, or they did this, or, instead of just saying, well, hey, you have a mouth, you got a tongue in there somewhere, that your teeth are working right, so you can speak clearly. Right. So just speak, just communicate. And for whatever reasons, I got to call my daughter to come up. So yes. It's just, we do try to remind each other and remind others to, hey, communicate. Because so many of us do get trapped in our own minds, right? Yeah. We get trapped in our minds, and then we can have a conversation and an experience in our mind that feels so real to us that we feel like the other person should automatically be included into the insight. That, no, I've been having this 30-minute conversation in my head. Yeah, you should already know what I'm asking. And it's like, oh no, I wasn't there for that conversation. I wasn't able to get in there. That's good. But back to the PFC. PF change. Look at that. The prefrontal cortex. So processing input, planning, also problem solving, which the PFC connects with other parts of the brain, including those that are associated with emotions and impulses. This allows all areas of the brain to be involved in problem solving. And then last one, before we move on and make this make sense, is controlling behavior. So it helps controls impulses, delay gratification, and regulate emotions. It also helps people see and predict the consequences of their actions and change their behavior when situations change. So I think some of the biggest damage we've done when it comes to not taking advantage of the prefrontal cortex is teaching people, and I don't know how we got so much on compliance stuff today, but teaching people compliance over alignment, right? So compliance is do what I say because somebody thought that this was the best way to do things. Yeah. All right. And even if it is the best way to do things, but alignment is, hey, if you do this, this will help you hit your goals. Right. Okay. And so, and when it comes to the brain, have y'all ever heard, I'm sure you have, but I have to ask because that's communication. Have you ever heard of the saying, use it or lose it? You ever heard that saying? Yeah. Tell me the context you heard that saying in.
More so in performance during training, right? If we don't continue to practice and use our skills, do our skills and things of that nature, then it won't be displayed how we want to during competition or performances. And also in the academic world when learning, right? Mm-hmm. If I don't use my memory skills when I'm trying to recall something and understand something, if I'm not studying it or trying to learn it enough to be able to articulate it, then, I'm going to lose that information. So
I love it. Yeah. So for me, hearing use it or lose it almost my whole life was always in reference to gifts. It was always, you better use that gift or you're going to lose it. And it was always use it or God is going to take away from you. Yeah. You use your singing or God is going to take it. Factor too. Very much so. Yeah. But do you know where this saying actually originates from? It originates in neuroscience. It's actually talking about the brain. It's actually talking about your cognitive functions. Your cognitive functions work in the same way that muscles work, in the sense that you have to use them to keep them. So, and so this is one of the reasons why I find neuroplasticity and the work of the prefrontal cortex so important, because it does remind us that mind change happens the same way that life change happens, impact and repeated impact. All right. So if you're repeatedly jogging or repeatedly lifting weights, you're going to change your physical body. It's the same way with your mind. If you're repeatedly impacted by information
That's good.
It's
Yeah.
going to lead to mind change.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I've learned that with trying to be fluent in a new language.
Yes.
If you don't use it, you're definitely going to lose it. So you have to keep practicing that.
Which also kind of highlights, like, when you're struggling, like, okay, well, why won't this person change their mind? I'm giving them this information. Why isn't this changing their mind? Because this information impacts you. It doesn't impact them.
Right, right.
And so, and just to kind of put the shoe on the other foot, many of the believers who jump in my comments, and not just believers, it's secular folk too. You got secular folk who got a problem with that I call myself an atheist, or secular folk who got a problem with anything. And I'm like, I share my thoughts. I don't have a problem with anybody else, because you, and I don't have to sleep with you, and what you eat don't make me poop. You know what I'm saying? But it's the shoe on the other foot is many believers come in my comments and say either I'm praying for you, or God is going to get you, or I'm going to speak this Bible witchcraft over you, and this spell is going to work in your life. And their hope or their intent is that somehow this will have some type of impact on me and lead to me reconsidering where I stand. The problem is they don't have an understanding what I value as impacting. And so you're always going to have a hard time helping anybody lead to mind change if you don't understand what they value.
Right. That's good.
And that's again why I say alignment is better than compliance, So instead of trying to get them to comply to your understanding, instead of trying to get them to agree with the things that you agree with, find out their goals. This is motivational speaking stuff right here. For all of those of you who are coaches and stuff out there like that. The way you coach somebody is you find their goals.
What are they aiming for?
Yes. And then you help them measure their behavior, their life activity against the backdrop of their goals. Okay, so you're doing this every day. How does this help you reach your goal?
This reminds me of one of the tests you made to determine, like, if you're a champion, a historian, and it helps you figure out, okay, what motivates you, that kind of remind me of that, because some people don't know. They may not be able to realize or take the time per se to figure it out.
Oh man. Well, see, that's I think one of the biggest gifts of my deconstruction journey is for me embracing the fact that life may be mysterious, but it's not unknowable.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so and then, for me, my own capacity as a human being became something that I could measure, that I could monitor, and that I could manage. It was no longer something that was up to the whims of spirituality, or up to the whims of whether God was happy with me today or not, or whether the devil was trying to, teach me a lesson for God or not, or whether somebody was spiritually trying to put, witchcraft or spiritual warfare against me. Right. It simply became, cause and effect, and realizing that, holy crap, I can exert a lot more control over my sphere of influence than I thought I could. Yeah. But the only way I can do that is to, and I'll take a scripture, is to, in all of my getting, get understanding.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Bree, that's too funny.
Some you don't even believe in. Yeah. Aren't you scared? Right? No. And that works the flip way sometimes when we're wondering why non-believers won't change their minds when we present certain information. It's just like that information doesn't mean anything to them yet. Yeah. So how does this actually impact mind change? Well, we change beliefs the same way we form beliefs, and that is through sensory input, and that's kind of something we've kind of hit throughout this conversation, is the information that you're exposed to. Yeah. But not only the information that you're exposed to, but also how you relate to that information. How you relate,
exactly.
So kind of going back to what you hit earlier, I feel that. Mm-hmm. And see, and because the experience does dictate how you feel about the information.
Absolutely, it definitely does.
And that's why we said earlier, emotions are for the experience, data, information is for the decision. But that information is going to be filtered through your emotions.
And that's why you can't lead with your heart.
What you
people
said.
will tell you, go with your heart.
Well, see, number one, your heart only pumps blood. So right. trying to be led by it is going to be really problematic.
Really
that reminds me of that time somebody asked Carl Sagan to just, hey, just give us a gut instinct, give us your gut response. He said, well, I try not to think with my gut,
Which was a cold response.
I loved it, man. I almost fell out my chair. So we receive information, or we receive various data points. And the reason why I say various is because the human brain can process 11 million bits of information per second.
That's a lot.
11 million bits of information per second. But our conscious mind can only handle 40 to 50 bits of information a second.
That's a big drop.
I wonder, is that the problem? Is the problem not the differentiator between consciousness and the subconscious mind? Because we don't know where these things are. But is the differentiator actually our processing speed? That, and I hate to say, okay, this is going to sound weird, but that our brain can process faster than our mind can.
And we kind of can get a visual using the computer.
Absolutely.
Remember, the slower computer, then you have to upgrade to induce the speed.
Absolutely. Well, see, so to kind of give an example, imagine walking outside, just stepping outside right now. In the first second you step outside, your brain is receiving 11 million bits of data. And so that data can come across several streams. Sight, smell, sound. Did I do another one on this? Okay, let's do those. Sight, smell, and sound. So just within the first second, right? So in the first second you step outside, you're getting sunlight. You're seeing grass. You're seeing trees. You're seeing cars passing. You're seeing neighbors. Maybe you're seeing some trash. Maybe you're seeing cement. This is all information that is coming into your mind and being processed. You're also smelling things. You're smelling fresh air. You're smelling cut grass, neighbors grilling. Maybe you're smelling rain coming if you're in the South. Weather's coming.
The weather's coming.
You hear sound. You hear leaves rustling. Maybe you hear thunder. Maybe you hear traffic in the distance, dogs barking, birds singing. All of that. That's 11 million bits of information your mind is processing per second, with you only being conscious of 40 to 50 bits of it.
That's a big disconnect.
That is a huge, it's a huge distance. Yeah. It is. And so, all right. So this is, this is all of that information. It's forming a foundation. Joe, Mr. Difficult is in the building. All of that information is basically forming. Oh, I feel in the air. The storm's coming and it's going to be bad. Yes. I thought you were going with that. I can feel it coming in the air tonight. I love that song. Thank you, Native Atheists. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Our community is grateful for your support. Beautiful. Yes. And so, to think about this, I'm gonna give you some more ideologies here, because I actually ran this not just thought experiment yesterday. I literally spent the first half of my day building a Python model to kind of simulate how we form beliefs and ideas.
And don't you just love, like, every day my husband is working on something and it's really the same things, but just in different
thank you, babe.
Categories, if you will. But doesn't it feel like I got something done, or I'm getting more, learning more and new concepts at the age of 38 still?
Yes. Well, and again, that's one of the, watch this, one of the biggest revelations, if I can use that word. Realization is a better word, that I got after deconverting, is that my life is for me. Yeah. And so, like, and this creates friction with me and some of my friends, because I'm hyper productive now, and they get mad at me sometimes because
you've always been just in different.
That is true. That is true. I've just amped it up some. But I typically send out a little message every now and then. Look, I hope you're having a productive day. And they don't like that. Their thing is like, every day shouldn't have to be productive. And I'm like, I don't know if you think I'm productive because I'm trying to impress other people. But no, this has nothing to do with anybody else. I'm productive because this is what I want to do with my life. And that was the gift I got from deconverting. The gift to myself was, hey, Darante, you can get in the driver's seat in your life and like you can make it the way you want to be.
Start driving Maya.
Just so I can get that singing voice. I know it, right? You know, it's funny. Pastors and comedians have that. Pastors and comedians have that. See this happy. All my Christian family members. Wow. You know, that was another one of the reasons I deconverted, is like I realized that like Christianity was wreaking havoc on relationships, on marriages, on parental relationships. And then unfortunately you get involved in communities that are so socially constrained that you can't even talk about those problems. So everybody just pretend like everything is good. And so if you even were to highlight that, hey, this marriage might be problematic, they're going to say, well, nobody's marriage is perfect. And it's like, well, hey, well, nobody was saying anybody's marriage is perfect, but the standard of nobody's marriage working should not be the standard of what you use to fix yours. And so, but and another thing just about happiness is I don't think we get happiness from our marriage. And that's something that we try to be very clear on, is that you need to be a happy person your damn self. Otherwise, it ain't gonna be no happy marriage. You know what I'm saying? Nobody else can make you happy. And I was that person for a time in my life where I did try to make other people happy, try to make my mom happy, try to make my dad happy, try to make my sister happy, try to make my grandmama happy. And then I finally realized, like, oh no, y'all just ain't happy people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because I can be happy. Like I can be happy all by myself.
All by myself. You know? Yes.
And I guess it's because I'm a preacher, because as a preacher, that we used to have to preach ourselves happy. Do you remember the preacher saying that? I preach myself happy. But you know, so no, the goal for us, and that is kind of what we do at community too, is just to kind of be happy individuals. Because the moment you put it on somebody else to make you happy, number one, it's unfair to that other person because they're not a psychic. And number two, it's unhelpful for you because anything that comes from outside of you that's supposed to come from inside of you will never be sustainable. Which is actually kind of good, because this rolls in here. This rolls into this. Y'all are amazing. I love having these conversations with y'all. So, thought. So in my little experiment, my model experiment, I theorized that thought is the movement of data and data clusters in our mind at various frequencies. And so if you can imagine it, and you know, I still got a little childish part inside of me, so I'm going to giggle when I say this. Just imagine a bunch of balls. See, giggle. A bunch of balls in a bowl, you know, in a bowl. A bowl of balls. Okay. So a bunch of balls in a bowl. There's just too many bees here.
There was that game where you had the balls and the lady had to come pick it out.
I think that's the lottery.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
There may have been a game too, though.
No, that's what I was thinking about.
Oh, okay. Perfect. So you imagine like thoughts in a ball, thoughts in a bowl, balls in a bowl, moving around. All right. They're moving around at various speeds. Those are data points, you know. And as far as your brain thinking knowing that you're processing 11 million bits of data per second after 30, 40 years of living, imagine how many data points, how many balls of data. Goodness gracious, great balls of data. But how many balls of data you have bouncing around in your brain. Some of those balls of data are moving slow. Some of those balls of data are moving fast. And my hypothesis, those balls are being moved by thought. And so when you're thinking about something, when you're kind of concentrating on something, it speeds up the frequency of those balls, gets those balls moving, right? It gets the balls moving around, they're bouncing around, and they're finding each other and filling each other and stuff like that. And if there are any other relatable balls, they're forming ball bonds of balls of bonds of steel. You see how I did that? So you got the data points moving based off of thoughts. Every time you're thinking about something, it's moving more. And if there are other things that are closely related to that thought, it increases the likelihood of that thought latching onto that other data point, or not that thought, because a thought can represent several data points. So a thought is not a data point. And I know I'm being a little detailed here, but we'll go there. A thought is not a data point. Your thought is moving data points. Your thought is a thing that's moving those data points. And so a thought could be moving 20 trillion data points at one point. So for example, and we kind of did this thought experiment yesterday. Let's say the thought is, I'm hungry. The data points in your mind, but whose balls? Why do those balls keep bouncing around in my brain most when I'm trying to go to sleep, right?
That's so true.
The thought could be, I'm hungry. The data points may be chicken, Church's chicken, Popeye's chicken, KFC chicken, Golden Corral, burgers, crab legs, sausage, Kaneka sausage. Yes. You know, and so you see all of those different rapidly firing and filling balls, bondage balls. There's a lot of balls here. I love it. Oh man, that's the ADHD.
So all those varying.
Just one thought is stimulating several different data points. Like, and I find that fascinating. And looking and as those balls are bouncing around, as they're finding things that have some similarity, they're forming bonds. And as they form bonds, which each new formed bond, you get growth. And in that growth, you get gravity, which then, and that's kind of, and I should have did a visual. That's kind of how these thoughts then begin to grow in your mind, because the more thoughts find similarity in your mind with other thoughts, or data points rather, in your mind with other data points, and it has a positive correlation with your emotional experience, or even a negative correlation with your emotional experience. So just any correlation with your emotional experience, it forms a belief in your mind through the work of the cortex. And so basically the way that I did it is your mind is developing data points, data nodes, data trees, and data networks. And data networks kind of is when you get like kind of almost like you know your stuff. It gives you a lot of bit of confidence.
Right.
All right. So I'm going to move from this so you can, because I know you got some stuff to share too. So I'm going to shut up.
Well, while you're doing that, thank you, Benjamin, for your super chat. We greatly appreciate you.
Appreciate you, Benjamin, man. The community salutes you. Thank you. I almost said hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Blessed be.
Blessed be the fruit. Oh, man. Perfect. And I think that next part is on you.
Yes. And so with that being said, what are the measurable contributors to mind change? And so one of the contributors that may be obvious is time decay, right?
I like time decay, yes.
Which we're seeing in some people we know. Point of time between engagement of points or clusters and last engagement. The longer the time of disengagement, the greater the decay of the bond, leading to a belief and or behavior change.
Which is kind of like what we mentioned earlier, use it or lose it. And so in this way, oh, wow, which is kind of like if that belief no longer has utility for you, so this belief is no longer serving you, and that may not even be a decision that you came to. It just, because I remember one time I was getting ready to pray over my food, and I looked up and looked around to see if anybody was looking, and I noticed nobody was looking. I stopped praying over my food from that moment on. But so kind of stopped engaging that thought. If this idea no longer has any utility, and utility, I mean, if this idea has no place in your day-to-day life, it kind of creates a time decay. So I do like that. Because if you think about the ideas that we do form, like especially things that move from ideas to beliefs, those things exist in my thought experiment as bonds in our minds. A time decay would be, let's say you have these two data points or these two ideas that led to this belief, and maybe, and I'm just going to try to use a relevant one since we talked about me praying over my food. Maybe it's prayer and God, but the longer you do without prayer, maybe you realize, prayer doesn't really have an impact.
Right.
And so maybe God doesn't go anywhere. You don't change your mind about God, but you do change your mind about prayer, which you see happen with very many believers. There are many believers who believe in God, but don't believe in the efficacy of prayer, and can't necessarily pinpoint the moment they change their mind about it, because this type of mind change literally just came from time decay. I haven't thought about this in so long. It hasn't had any utility for me. So, I guess I don't believe that anymore.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever had any moments like that where it was just like, oh, I guess I don't think that anymore? I know for me, abortion was like that. And this when I was a pastor. And it was just like, oh, I guess I don't think abortion, is this great evil. And it wasn't a decision that I made. It was, and that goes back to talking about how the subconscious processes so much information before we're even aware of it. It seems like that was a subconscious decision that had been made, but I wasn't consciously aware that I had felt that way until I actually got asked the question, and I was like, "Oh, I guess I don't."
Yeah, I guess. And then, but going back to even praying over your food, sometimes it's not even a belief; it's just an instilled compliance from your parents.
Yes.
Oh, don't take your head off the table when when we're eating. Don't sing at the table. If you don't say your prayer, you may get tapped, or like, oh, you need to say your prayers. And so the child doesn't always. We assume that they may believe that, but a lot of times the children just want to eat.
That's right.
It's not that they believe, and the parents think, oh, they really believe what I'm instilling in them. And it's like, no, I want to eat, and I know you'll tap my hand or something if I don't.
Right? Oh, I love these. I forgot. You can read it. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I actually forgot to wait for the prayer before eating last Sunday when I was at lunch with my grandma and her friends from church. Oops,
oh, and they take that seriously, right?
Yes.
Man.
Sure.
Yep. Thank you, Jesus. Every morning before I did anything else. After a year of no religion, I woke up yesterday and said, thank you, Jesus. Yeah, that's how that happens. Isn't that amazing?
So sometimes the data points come back.
It comes back. That's right. Because the data point is still there. It's floating around. It's just the bond that is decayed. Right. Which also means if it ever restores a bond with something else, then it will become a part of that belief system. I stopped believing in prayer when I was 7 or 8. I remember that moment. Mom told me if I prayed, Jesus would take away my fear of the dark. Big surprise. That didn't work. Yes. Oh, my goodness. I saved my prayers for when it comes. I love that. I love that. For me, that was necessary activity was one of those. Yep. Going to church. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm just going to put this up because it's funny.
Yeah.
Gasp. But yeah, I love it.
I think you have some people now who those spiritual guiders or it's something else they call like your Lisa Nichols crew and things. You almost turn in prayer into positive thinking and say I'm gonna throw it in the atmosphere, or if you're feeling down about yourself or down about your day, whatever it is.
Oh yeah, that's that Jim Rohn.
Instead of saying it's prayer, you kind of still talking to yourself and you putting yourself in the mindset, trying to train your mind in a sense.
Absolutely.
And so
that actually does bring us into it's not in the notes, but it is something that we'll be talking about in this series, and it'll be something I'll be talking about more on the channel, and that's meditation. Because ultimately that's what that's slipping over into, and I find meditation to be incredibly beneficial and incredibly powerful as a tool once we separate it from some of the woo. And now I still like a little woo on the side too. But I find it more fascinating of understanding the real ways that we can kind of, for lack of better words, biohack ourselves. We can hack ourselves into being more productive. We can hack ourselves into being more happy. We can hack ourselves into finding peace. And none of this stuff is very new. And many of these things, the foundations of religion were kind of in, especially when you deal with Eastern religions where people were finding that there's this type of inner stillness you can have that makes you absolutely indifferent to everything that's going around you, which comes much from the Stoic movement and Stoicism. So, but yeah, thank you for hitting meditation, because I do. That is definitely going to be a big conversation on this channel, and it's definitely going to be a part of the conversation in this series. And likely, we may have to do a whole series on just meditation and mindfulness for a Sunday session. Eminem. So we talked about time decay as a contributor to mind change. Another one is cognitive repulsion. This is when data is integrated into a cluster, and I know I'm using all these techie words, that contrast with other previously connected data points or clusters. For example, for me, that may have been God and love. So let's say I had God and love that were two data points in my mind that formed a cluster or a data node. The cognitive repulsion is when you learn something about one that is in direct contradistinction to the other point. So in this case, it happened both ways. I started learning things about God that didn't align up with love, with what I understood about love. And so those things are eventually pulling and pulling apart. Well, no, because in the beginning is, well, God is love. God equals love. But then it's like, well, now that you're allowing yourself to look at this, though, is it loving to kill the people you created?
No.
Is it loving to drown kids? Is it loving to tell your prophets to kill people? Is it loving to kill your own son? Is it loving to encourage other people to kill their sons? And you see how that kind of goes? Is it loving to let this book be written, be spoken of for you, and let people mismanage it while you sit back and do absolutely nothing? And so the further and further those things go apart, eventually they are in complete contradistinction to each other, and there's no longer a bond there. And so at one point, here I was as a person who believed God is love, but by learning about love or by learning about God, I learned. And it's not just by learning, it's what I learned. Because when you say by learning, you're asserting that everybody who learns will be automatically learning the same things. And that's not necessarily true, because there are other people who will look at that same story and say, oh, God is so loving. He matches love. Or they will redefine love, as we do with morality, to fit God. Right? Yeah. So people who, that's why I don't even engage in conversation with people who say, where you get your morals from, if not for God. Where do I get my morals from, if not from the guy who kills, rapes, and all this other stuff? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah. Don't do that to me. Don't do that. And some
people, where you had God and love, it's their parents.
Oh, like, yes.
And I see it in comments on different things. People assume if a mother gave birth that they automatically love that child. Everybody doesn't have the experience with their parents. Yep. They, and so it's like unconditional love. It's the assumption of unconditional love and parents. Yep. Yeah. And then you start to.
I'm gonna say something very unpopular. I don't know what unconditional anything is. Like, our whole existence is conditional.
It's conditions.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. If there's no oxygen, you die. The conditions change, you die. Yeah, you see? So, to me, I pull that unconditional stuff from superstition, and because
that's where the disappointment.
That's where the disappointment comes in. That also, because it creates this idea: God gave me a baby, I must be equipped to be a parent, and so nobody has to tell me to be a parent or tell me how to be a parent, or God wouldn't have equipped me to have a baby. And I know that this is. Like, I ain't trying to throw anybody under the bus, but this is how the majority of people in my family view the world.
Because the baby is a gift.
The baby is a gift from God. Yeah. So it must be
a loan. God literally called the baby so.
That's the thing. God literally knew I could handle this. God knew that I could manage this. Therefore, I'm not going to do anything to be a better manager of it.
Yeah. That's good.
Yes. All right. So, dang it. And there was another one, because you said about parents, but it's also so God and love, but also just parents and truth. I think that's something that a lot of teenagers go through.
Yeah.
Or parents and authenticity. Oh, I thought these two things were the same. Mm-hmm. And because I think a lot of us, or many of us, went through that with our parents, of realizing, oh, these ideas that I have formed about you, I don't think I have those ideas anymore.
Yeah.
All right. So
change.
To kind of wrap this conversation up a little bit, we want to end kind of talk about the impact of measurable confidence on mind change. And this is a part of my hypothesis. This is stuff I was working out yesterday, is that levels of actual confidence also impacts both rate and probability of mind change. So how confident you feel in what you believe also is going to impact whether you're going to change your mind about that.
Right.
So and I'll use just kind of like a Fugazi type of example. Like, if you really believe that Roll Tide is the best, football team in the world, and you believe that you have enough information to be confident in that decision, it's going to be harder to change your mind, right?
Yeah.
So, I've hypothesized that there is a way to kind of measure this by a relationship with available data points, as opposed to testimonial. And while still experimental, can be interrogated in conversation. So I kind of characterized this in a few areas. The lowest level of confidence for this, there is one lower than this, but for this is what I call trying. And at the level of trying, there's absolutely no confidence in this one. which basically means, for using this kind of idea of this hypothesis of the mind, of balls in the mind, everything is conditional, right? That needs to be a shirt. We're doing it. We're doing it. Regardless, so when you're trying, in this category, the way I imagine this is a mind that has data points, but none of those data points are this is a mind that doesn't have enough data points. So basically, you don't have enough information to do anything more than try.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so a person who's in this level, regardless of their passion, they change their mind often. And so as long as you're loud and a part of a growing group, you have a high possibility of changing their mind. The next is what I call the level of guessing. So you move from trying, you move to guessing. These guesses could be uneducated or educated.
Yeah.
But I call this the realm of shallow confidence, which is basically where you have enough data points, but not enough related data points.
Right.
So there's not enough data points up there to connect. Yes, to connect those dots, to form bonds, to form relationships. And so these people are typically more committed because information is motivation. Even if that information isn't exactly connected in all the ways it needs to be, information is very much motivation. That's how Apple built its empire. But these people are likely less passionate. And the way that they're typically change their minds is just by if someone helps them connect the dots, because they already have the data points. They just need somebody to be able to say, well, have you thought about this and this? Or have you looked into this and this? Which those people who are at the guessing phase, they tend to be really reasonable. And they're typically guided by a homegrown framing of sense, which means sense to me equals whatever sense was for my mom, for my Uncle Bill, for my grandpa, Papa, Uncle Joe, Auntie Francis, whatever,
All of it.
And these people, like the way that I wrote this in my notes, for them, connection with information is typically intuitive. This feels right, which is another way of saying I don't actually have the capacity to know if it's right. That, and everybody noticed that. Like anytime you're in your life and you say, well, this feels right, that also means that you don't know it's right. So let's figure out if it's possible to know if it's right before we move. And there are some moves that you don't always know if it's possible. And no amount of getting it right for these people actually improves confidence, though. Because there's no significant change in the data relations. So they're always still going to feel like us a lucky guess. And then there is knowing, which is I put in the level of emerging confidence. And this is when you got some nodes, you got some connections up there. These points are finding other points. Trusting them. Yes, you these people are going to be the most resistant to mind change. Yeah, because isn't it always like that though? Like even in athletes, even in sports, the person who's newly good is the one that has the hardest time taking advice. Yeah. Like I'm the new hotness. Nobody's telling me nothing, So they're typically the most resistant to mind change. They have enough relationship with the information to feel confident, but not yet enough to feel small. And when I say feel small, I don't mean that in a derogatory way. That's really what intelligence does for you. Intelligence humbles you. Yeah. And this isn't a scientific fact, but it's definitely something I live by. And to anybody I've known who was really intelligent was humble, because intelligence is not knowing what you know. It's knowing enough to know what you don't know.
Yeah, and I think if you ever watch Neil deGrasse Tyson, he does a great job at that, because he's gonna say what he knows, and then if he doesn't know something, he's like, "This is why I have you here. Yep. You go ahead and take this over."
Yep. So, and though these who are in that category of knowing and that kind of new hotness, though they are the most resistant to mind change, for them it's all about exposing the knowledge gaps. So they feel where they're pulling their strength from and their resistance is what they know. What they know, right? If you could highlight for them what they don't know, that's the thing that would expose them to that vulnerability, because what they really love is that confidence of knowing. And so once you realize that, that's your best strategy of actually communicating with that person. So instead of talking about all the things that you don't know, let me see if I can find the knowledge gaps that are leading to the wrong conclusion.
Right.
You know, and for them, connection to information is predicted, which means I already know how I'm gonna respond to it. You know?
Right.
And then understanding is that next level, which is I call it ambiguous confidence. And these are the most open to mind change. They have enough information where they have not just nodes, but trees and everything building up there of interconnected information. And for them, they're the most open because they can really be, their mind can be changed in a conversation with evidence. Connection to information is expected. All that they just want to understand the information. And then that last one is earned confidence, which is kind of a level of mastery. And that's where you have these huge networks of information up there. And just understand these aren't necessarily different people. They're kind of more like different modes, because all of us are all of these things in different levels, right? So maybe when it comes to neuroscience, you're no confidence. But maybe when it comes to video games, you have mastery. And I think those are the things, and I think I've said this before, those are things we need to understand about intelligence, is that intelligence is not about somebody having the answers you need. Intelligence is about having the answers, intelligence is about the ability or the capacity for somebody to get the answers that they need.
Yeah.
That they find meaningful, you know. And so we often skip over that. So
and then you have flow.
And then you have, thank you, flow, yes, which is indifference. When a person gets to a place where they have such an understanding of something, where they're just kind of in flow, and you see it a lot with athletes, of course, you're just indifferent. There is no confidence there. There's no confidence involved. It's just, this is known. So it's known. I'm indifferent to this. And typically they're kind of hard to change their minds too. Well, I say kind of hard, but not as hard, because what changes their mind is typically personal or significant loss. And not loss, just trauma, but just, I did this and thought this was going to happen. It didn't happen. Okay, I need to reevaluate. And so in that way, we can also see that information has a high correlation to confidence, and confidence, how confident we feel about the information we engage, also has a high correlation with whether or not we're going to change our minds.
Yeah. Let's see how you do that.
Bringing it back.
We had a few comments. Alyssa said, I believe in unconditional breathing.
Unconditional breathing.
Yes.
I love it. I love that.
Device said, they have to assume all humans were created the same. Otherwise, they'd have to think about their beliefs.
Yes.
And realize it's not feasible to force their opinions on others.
So true.
Exactly.
So true.
The assumptions that all mothers will automatically love any and all babies they give birth to is also how they justify forcing people to birth and raise unwanted children.
Say that.
Absolutely.
I honestly believe my mother would have been a healthier person if she would have never been forced to have to deal with childbirth.
Yeah.
That's all of them? Man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That was thank y'all for jumping in. Now, this is beautiful stuff. All right, so we're going to try to wrap this up because we're at the marker, and we still have like 2 pages of notes. I was going to hit, and I guess I won't, just shameless plug, but other work outside of the work that we do on the channel and the work that we're doing with community. And for us, community isn't just about these conversations. We're actually trying to create opportunity for community. There's so many different things we're trying to do. But what I thought kind of went really good with this is some of the work we do. So obviously, y'all know we are DL and DD World Group. So DLDD World Group for us is a secular humanist ministry committed to people-centric services, projects, and programs. And of course, we're 501c3, tax deductible. So keep that in mind. But we have a bunch of different projects and programs that we're working on. One of those programs is called Mastermind. And Mastermind, it basically evolves out of my passion for communication, education, and personal growth and development.
Right.
And we really started creating this idea of Mastermind as a way to kind of disrupt education and to help people, if you will, grow on their own terms and without. I consider classrooms and curriculum to be incredibly restrictive. And just in my work, nearly 3 decades, what I found is that people tend to learn the most in free flow experiences and conversations. where they're able to somewhat guide the experience. And then you also think about how education, the classroom creates so much trepidation and apprehension with am I going to get the answer
To
wrong?
answer the question, right?
Are people going to pick at me? And so Mastermind was a way to explore some of these ideas. And so we've explored different courses, we've explored different curriculums, but most of all, we've ended up working on developing an actual platform that people will be able to engage and explore concepts of whatever they want and just kind of measure their progress and growth. And that's where some of this stuff comes as far as understanding neuroplasticity and how mind change works. Because one of the things that we want to do on the app is to actually give people somewhat a model of their mind based off of their thoughts and their conversations. So I wanted to share that. Where we're developing learning frameworks, platforms, and experiences that help individuals hack their personal growth and development. So I will say, shameless plug, because when we did the first version of this, we didn't get as many beta users as we would have liked, some testers. So if you're interested in testing the app when we have the next version ready, please let us know. All right, and so the last one we're going to hit, babe, will you hit bandwagon fallacy?
Yeah, so bandwagon fallacy, and I hope you can appreciate that we've been intentional about being averse to bandwagon ideology, especially my ladies who are into fashion. Like jumping on bandwagon, like you can't wear white during winter. That's something.
You can't wear white
like,
after Labor Day. Like, what? I wore
wear
white pants yesterday.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure it out too. Like, honestly, I was like, why can't I wear white after Labor Day? Is it something about, like, is it because we eat chili during this season or something?
A lot of food.
But I'm like, but I eat nachos during the rest of the season.
Cookout.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
man.
And so, like, it's not our goal to convince anyone on that our experiences are the same as yours, or our ideas should be paramount or conclusive. And my husband says this even on his videos that he does during the week. He's not trying to tell you how to live or how to be, but he has that right to give you his experience, and you have new pieces of information and data points to think about, right?
Yep. Don't change your life on my account. Don't do that. You should change your life.
Because you in charge.
You.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, and I'll tell you, one of the reasons I'm averse to that is because that's something that pastors got pressured with a lot. Like, you have no idea, like, when people come to you for advice as a pastor, your advice has to work. Yeah. And if it doesn't, they're holding you accountable. Not what they did, just you. And so I'm always very clear with people, like, I'm not telling you what to do. You have to be responsible for your life.
Come on.
You will not get the scapegoat me, right? That's it, Maya. I do what I want. That's it. And that's where everybody will just have to live. I can say some things, but I don't share these things because I think everything I think is the best thing since sliced bread. I share these things because I'm really interested in a world where more people feel the freedom to share the thoughts that are on their mind. Not just because I want to learn and know new things and I'm really interested in what other people think and who they are and what their experiences are, but also just in case you are an absolutely fucking psycho, I'd want to know. So please share that content. Oh, man.
Yes. And so, and I think you hit a great segue into that because you want to use your ideas and spark conversations, and that's always been your goal, even when you were a pastor, was sparking conversations to progress humanity or contribute to the progression of humanity.
I don't like going into rooms where everybody feels like they have answers that I know they couldn't possibly have. Mm-hmm. I don't like going into rooms where other people feel like they have answers for people that they couldn't even possibly know. And so I like one of the things that I definitely want us to do when it comes to Bridge City and the Bridge is creating a space where the leaders of these communities aren't people that get stuck in that place of being the person who has all your answers. Yeah. But instead, just no, this person is here to just help us develop community. Vision. Yeah, help craft the vision. Yeah. Help bring these ideas together. But no, they don't have all your answers. And no, they probably shouldn't be the main person just leading conversations, because that's going to lead us back to that other place.
Now you're gonna see a lot of it because obviously a lot of videos be like, "Hey, do these 5 steps. I got the 5 secrets.
I got the
for
secret.
you to."
Because I mean, because that's a major sales strategy. One that I'm incredibly averse to is I don't have any secret sauce. If you go back and watch Kung Fu Panda, I think it's part 1. The moral of that story was the secret is in you. All right, you know, and
you should have played your song.
Which one? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Hold on. Which one? See, I did it again. Change you for you. Absolutely. That's it. Man, that's just the best. That's the only way you're going to be comfortable with your change.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to value your change, appreciate your change, and really enjoy your experience. Which is why I don't really spend my time trying to, like, even with my family members, I don't try to change them. I don't even though I'm looking like, damn, your life sucks and you really need to do something about that shit. But like, I'm not like, hey, you need to stop believing in God because this is fucking you up. I be wanting to do that. I really do. But I know that that's not necessarily how mind change works.
And that's good because you mentioned a major part of mind change is social tolerance.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you necessarily have to engage in ignorance, but you don't have to bang the person over the head or solely disrupt your life for theirs because of that difference. Well,
and you know, it's just like the more tolerant an idea, concept, or practice is socially, the more likely people are to entertain the idea, concept, or practice. So I did mention this in one of my videos before, like booty eating. Like when I was a kid, like if somebody called you a booty eater, those were like fighting words. Like, ain't nobody booty. And like now, it's popular. Like, you know, everybody out there talking about eating booty. And I'm just like, huh, where did this come from? But that illustrates how something that once a word or once an idea enters the social zeitgeist, it increases intolerance. The more people talk about a thing, the more tolerant a thing becomes, you know. And so even with us seeing an increase of secularism or humanists or agnostics or atheists, we're seeing this increase, or even people who are believers and just decide, you know, I just don't want to identify with the weird stuff, you know, or whatever. The reason this is happening is because there's enough people talking about these things in the conversation to where other people can hear it and say, oh, this is not strange anymore. Because remember, the definition of strange is ultimately rare. And so the only real thing you got to do is normalize it. That's why that's the main reason we do content. You know, we've been working on DODD World Group for years, just not majoring on the content side, but realizing like, oh snap, we're going to be fighting a losing battle if we're not normalizing these things. Yeah. And the only way you normalize these things is or not the only way, but the easiest way is to make it a part of the conversation, increase that visibility. Again, booty eating is in so many songs now that people who had never considered booty eating before.
I think the thong song started that.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if he talked about eating any booty in the thong song, but
yeah, slip in the cart.
Slip in the cart. Oh, that's funny. It's getting us closer to that area, right?
It's like slowly. So
and social tolerance really seems to be governed by social visibility.
Yeah.
Which definitely means we need to be, you know, purposefully visible as growing communities that are solving problems and enjoying life. And I want to add to that, and that's not just for secularism or humanism. If there's any community that you're a part of that has been marginalized and you're trying to figure out like what role can I play into helping to counteract some of this marginalization, I think some of the healthiest thing and the most effective thing you could do is to live your life out loud and unapologetically, and to find other people who will do the same thing. You know, there used to be a saying back in the day, we queer, we here, and something else. But like, I think every marginalized group kind of needs to learn from that. Yeah. Is that I'm not going to let nobody push me into the shadows.
Same, I'm black and I'm proud.
I'm black and I'm proud. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Our community's growth has my former mentors and contemporaries in the war room right now, because they're understanding that this channel is but a microcosmic representation of the growing group of secularists committed to global intentional community. And just knowing that, and I'm gonna take literally one of my former mentors. He has like some other people that he's sent out, and they're my former contemporaries. Many of we were great friends. Oh yeah, like they did a whole event about a week and a half ago. Well, actually, it was a several weeks event where, because they're trying to stimulate interest back into them, which is beautiful. I love the competition. Stimulate interest back into them. But I wanted to share that because this plays into this conversation of mind change, because they're going into that war room because they see that people are changing their minds.
Yeah.
And for the Black community, that is absolutely powerful, because these are Black pastors that are doing that.
Right.
For the first time, possibly in years, Black pastors are realizing that non-believers are here, and we queer, and we here to play. You know, I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but I thought it would be fun. All right, that's it. I think we're pretty much through. Our brains are incredibly sensitive. Oh yeah, because this is the social aspect. Our brains are incredibly sensitive to the beliefs and behaviors of others. Neuroscientific research indicates that social context and the opinions of people around us can influence neural processing. So not just how I feel about the information, being around people can impact the way that I even process that information before attaching a feeling to it. And you can kind of notice this if you've ever had a friend group, and in that friend group, maybe there was something that the friend group did that you didn't do, and prior to being a part of that friend group, it was something that you were absolutely averse to. But then the more you were hanging out with that friend group, that thing, again, that social zeitgeist became more and more tolerable for you, and eventually moved from tolerable to acceptable. And so maybe you were the person who didn't smoke at all, and then one day, you know what, look, hand me one of the menthols. You know what I'm saying? Or hand me the blunt, whichever one, you know. Dang, I forgot to say that when Paying Homage jumped in earlier. I don't know if you're still in here, but if you are, welcome in, Pastor Blunt. I said I was going to call you that from now on because I love it. I love it. All right, so we're done. Make sure to join us back for next week.
Yes.
We're going to be picking up part 2. Today was Am I Grown Yet? I like these little things. Next week, we're going to be talking about the reasons that we feel.
Oh, maybe we should play the reasons.
I can't hit that note, so I'm not even going to try to. Yeah.
We just went Tyler Perry mode.
Like,
yeah.
And like literally, if we had a physical campus and we had the volunteer teams together, I swear to God, I would never be grown. I love it. I love it. I promise, like, if we had a live situation, the band and the team would have been on it right there. We would have had a good time. Stop that sinful dancing. Yes. But so next week, we'll talk about how our lived experiences may override our perceived understanding. So I think that's going to be good. And then the week after that, we're going to, the last conversation in this series is going to be called I Know I've Been Changed.
And that's another one.
Yes.
No, but that's the gospel one.
There's a lot. Angels in heaven done sign my name. I never knew what that song was about. I'm like, wait a minute. It's like, I went down to the water, and the water was cold. I was like, okay. The angels signing my name. I didn't know the angels could write, and if they could write, why didn't they just write the Bible? Okay, that's me. All right, baby, I'm passing it over to you. I'm through.
Oh, yes. As you know, thank you always for joining in and tuning in today. We appreciate your time. We know your time is valuable and invaluable.
Yes.
So we appreciate you. If you haven't already, go ahead and like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell, okay? So you can get alerted any and every time we go live. And also look out for my husband's this week videos. You got to catch them when you catch them. If you don't catch them, hit that replay button, okay? Don't forget to join our community. You can join through Patreon, become a YouTube member, and also check out the merch. We have some more coming. And we had a new idea. I forgot it already. Somebody threw it in the chat.
Yep, we're going to have to go back and look at it. Some it was about the unconditional thing. Something it was okay. We're gonna find.
Yeah, we gotta find that one.
And I was also gonna jump in. Sorry to interrupt, babe.
Are you fine?
I was also gonna jump in and say, hey, for those of you who have been joining the Discord, thank y'all so much. Please make sure to introduce yourselves in the introduction room so we'll know who you are and so that we can all wave at you like wallabies. It's really fun. And of course, engage conversations. Please don't wait for me or you're gonna be waiting all day. Get in there. Let's get these conversations sparked. All right, I'm gonna shut up again.
Yes, and share this with any and everybody that you can, if you so wish, because you have that right. Okay. And if you are interested in financially supporting, we definitely appreciate that. We've made it easier for you to do so. You'll see in the description Cashapp, Patreon, YouTube membership, super chats. Thanks. We appreciate everyone who's been contributing so far, and we want to ensure that you don't feel obligated in that way. Just showing up, supporting, hitting that like button, commenting, coming back after the live and commenting again very much so helps. But we are realistic and we are practical people. So if you have it, thank you for that extra hand there. If you don't have it, that's okay as well, because you're being here and supporting us. We definitely appreciate that.
And that goes for time too. I know we always make that caveat with money, but I know many of you are tight on time as well. And maybe you wanted to volunteer and maybe you feel bad because you don't have the time. Please don't feel bad. Only feel bad if you do have the time. No, I'm just playing. But no, seriously, don't feel bad. Do what you can do. We want to make this space as open, welcoming, and welcoming for everyone as possible.
Yes, and Richmond said, "What's that Discord?" So I just threw it in the chat. The Discord link.
Dropped it
if you like to join as well. I'm also going to throw in our website, dldd.us. If you want to learn more about us and our work beyond the bridge, go to our website, check it out. It's always under construction. My husband codes it himself, guys. Okay, we appreciate.
I do a lot.
I
do a lot, guys.
Yeah, so
don't let him go, Murph. Don't let me leave, Murph.
If you're a code out there, you just have some time, 5 to 10 hours a week. Come on, volunteer.
Yes,
we appreciate you. We appreciate it. If you're looking into growing community and just expanding, building your portfolio, whatever the intention is, it works. It works. So we would love for you to join and connect with our community here at BridgeCity Global, and that's continuing to learn by attending and participating in the conversations. You help us grow, and we grow and you grow as well by exploring and engaging diverse ideas and perspectives and seeing what others, engaging with others, and being open. And you can support BridgeCity Global by volunteering, as we mentioned earlier, and giving accordingly to your visible capacity. So we appreciate you all. We have some forms, some links where you can hit to fill out a form for us, and we can get your information, and whatever you filled out the form for, we'll be able to see.
And either us or Dale, Advocating for Humanity, will be reaching out to you as we're getting built. And again, let's give everybody as much grace as possible until we are a full Megazord. Right now, we're like a Megazord. We're operating off of 2 Power Rangers, and that's limp. You can't fight nobody like that. But so just give us that grace as we're moving forward. Babe, will you hand me my book real quick? I don't talk about Memphis nearly enough.
Ooh, it's heavy.
It's a heavy one. This is actually the first novel that I ever wrote. And I am going to be spending some time talking about this a little bit on the channel, talking through the characters, because this is going to be the first of many. This exists in a universe of its own. I've been working on part 2 since 2020.
And he made the cover himself.
I did design the cover myself in the back. I was a little chubbier on the bottom. Let me see. I got my fingers over my face. I don't want y'all to see my fingernails. But yeah, that was me. That was me. But first fiction novel. If you're really into fiction, this is somewhat urban epic fiction. The first book is very much of a political thriller. I will warn you in advance, there are some pornographic sceneries in here. It's not imagery, but
it's not Game of Thrones.
Well, it's kind of Game of Thrones. It's
not OD though.
There's stuff slipping out of stuff.
It's juice, like
It's-
in your romance novel.
Yeah. It still is what it is. It's pornographic is pornographic.
If you like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, if you like Game of Thrones, I'm just saying it because I don't want you to be surprised. I don't want you to get them like he did what to what. It's just a few like a chapter or two that are like that. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I love writing. Well, I don't think this is the crowd that would have been offended by it though.
Yeah.
So I don't think we gotta worry about that. But check it out. It's really cool. I would love to hear your thoughts about this. I'm going to be sharing some more information about the characters in this. May do some read-alongs as well, because this book was a major part of my deconstruction journey. Even though it's not a deconstruction book, it was finding the freedom to be me. And that's why I highlighted the pornographic scenes, because I wrestled with writing them. Like, oh, can I even write this? And it was just like, well, fuck everybody else. I'm writing it, Yeah. Oh yeah, Anne Rice, right? Yes. Oh, we have novel readers out here. That just blessed my heart. All right, you can put that back over. But y'all can check that out. That is available on Amazon. And I will be talking about it more. And if there, I think I've mentioned this in a Discord before. If we have some other authors out there, especially in the fiction space, hey, let's build a book club. Let's talk about each other's works. I'd be very interested into hearing what you got going on. Yeah. All right, so I'm through. Have we hit everything we needed to hit, babe?
We hit everything pretty much.
Awesome sauce. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. Please make sure to be back here next week, same time. And bring a friend. Make it a watch party. You know what I'm saying?
Family and friends.
Let's get some pizza. Let's get some cookies. Does cookies and pizza go together? I don't know.
Yeah.
We're having roast today.
Yeah.
With cabbages and potatoes and carrots.
Mac and cheese.
And God, that feels so good just thinking about it. All right. We love y'all so much. I can't believe y'all have hung out with us this whole time. Y'all are absolutely amazing. We hope y'all have an amazing day. There are plenty of other great channels to support throughout the day. Maya Atkinson has Bad Science Sunday jumping on this week. Potluck jumping on this evening. Please jump in and support. We love y'all. Love you all. Until next time, be the bridge. And we'll holler at y'all later.
jwoodbeats.com.
I can do anything. Fuck your opinions and energy. I finally got the epitome. My biggest hindrance was God can't do nothing but fail. Greater is me. I never needed your deity. All of this human capacity. When it gets rough, I can pick myself up and prevail. I can do anything. Fuck your opinions and energy. I finally got the epitome. My biggest hindrance was God can't do nothing but fail. Greater is me. I never needed your deity. All of this human capacity. When it gets rough, I can pick myself up and prevail.